What's up, Shark Boys and Lava Girls? Welcome back to another episode of Shark Tuah. This is episode 7. This is another jovial one, you know? We're kind of switching off back from a super happy one to a kind of sad one. Now I'm feeling very good, feeling very happy. The Sharks went 3-1 in our last 4. We beat Utah 3-2 in overtime. We beat the LA Kings 4-3 in the shootout. We lost to Ottawa, 3-2. It was a regulation loss. And then we beat Austin 3-1 in a regulation win. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we spoke last time about how this was going to be a big week for Sharks hockey after sort of like a bit of a come-down week last time. We needed a big response. We needed to see, and we talked before about how the Sharks have sort of shown a little bit better response to hard times. And this last week, it wasn't the worst times, but I'd say, especially given how this year has gone, that qualified as hard times. So they came back this week, and they came back in pretty good way. I was generally quite happy with what we saw from the Sharks. Wasn't not like every bad thing that we saw last week was completely solved. You know, there are still issues of like we might not be getting all the offense we need from guys who aren't named Macklin Celebrini. You know, the defense isn't perfect. There's stuff that you could point out about the team, but at the end of the day, you're getting the results, and we're actually seeing some pretty good games. I mean, that the game up against Boston was just the very solid performance. It wasn't like a domination on the part of the Sharks, and Askarov definitely helped a lot, but it was a fairly resounding win. I do think that the Sharks were the better team in that game, and what can you ask for more than a nice solid win? So overall, it's been a good week. I'm happy. I'm a happy Sharks fan,
especially over the Bruins, who are actually a pretty reasonably well-performing team. We talk about how important this week was, how important it will be for the Sharks organization. I will say something maybe controversial, maybe not really controversial. Anyway, I think that this was the most important week of this season of the Sharks, probably for the entire year, unless we were in a playoff race at the end of the year. I think this period, showing that the initial run of really good games, the initial winning streak that we went on, was not a fluke. Because when we started to slow down, we really had to worry, like, all right, was that just like 9 games and then that was it? Like, we had those 9 games and it was great and then it's over? And I was a little worried about that. I was worried that it might have been a little bit of a flash in the pan. Maybe it was just me being a little bit paranoid. But now I really feel like these last 4 games have proven to me that this team can win, lose, and then win again, which is incredibly important. Not every team can do that. So it's been awesome. I feel like every losing streak we go on for the rest of this season, because there's going to be more, I feel like I'll be sitting a little easier, resting easier for sure, knowing that we did this. We've already come back, we've bounced back and shown that we have more in the tank, even if we lose a couple games, take some to the chin.
Yeah, I agree. This was a really important week, and like I said earlier, it wasn't like the most perfect week of hockey. Like we in that game against Utah, we did choke up a third period lead. It's sort of a similar thing against the Senators. We had an early lead, and we ended up not playing that great for the rest of the game. But we're in these games, even against the Senators, which was like overall, we had a strong first period, but we looked not so great after that. But even in a bad game, a relatively bad game, we have been in these games. And I think that, of course, a lot of credit has to go to Yaroslav Askarov, who has been the best NHL goalie in the month of November, other than maybe Jesper Wallstedt. But Askarov has started more games during that stretch. So although Wallstedt might have like slightly better rate stats over this month, Askarov has been actually playing the games, and I think that that's always important. It kind of reminds me of how in baseball, that sometimes there's arguments where it's like, who's the better pitcher? The guy with like really good under the hood metrics, who's like slightly better than the other guy, or the other guy who has like maybe slightly worse metrics, but he played 100 more innings. You kind of want to go with the guy who's actually been playing the games, and you got to give credit to Askarov for like basically, like carrying the Sharks on his back during the stretch. It's basically been a Celebrini Askarov show, and it's been a good show. I'm liking the show. So it's been great.
Show.
I'd watch that show too. That's a great show. I'm watching it right now. I mean, I'm not watching it right now. I'm watching Shark Tuah. But you understand the vibe that I'm getting at here. It's been, we're seeing that the Sharks can win, that they can do it somewhat sustainably. We're not going to be getting like the best goaltender in the entire league style gameplay probably for the entire year. I'd like if that happened, but you can't necessarily count on it. But I think that when Askarov does like maybe come down to earth a little bit, and obviously he's still going to be very good, but you just can't expect like the pure blitz that he's been on for it to hold up for an entire season. But even when he does come back down to earth, I'm not that worried. I think that the Sharks have proven that they can go with that. Even in certain games, we can win games where Celebrini's not providing a lot of offense. We've shown that we can win games, even though like a guy like Tyler Toffoli, who going into this season felt like our main offensive spark plug, who's not Celebrini, we've been able to win in games where he's not performing that well. So I think that there's just pretty much everything to be happy about this week in Sharks hockey. And I think that sort of leads us into our first segment of this special Thanksgiving edition of Shark Tuah, which is just sort of a generalized State of the Sharks address. Because there's an old hockey mantra that basically declares that what you see from your team, like going into Thanksgiving, more or less, is like you can kind of put some faith in it. We've played a little more than a quarter of the season at this point. You kind of have seen what teams are or maybe are not capable of necessarily. And so there's a lot, I feel like when it comes to this, from specifically a Sharks perspective, you can't really, at this point in the season, say that like every good thing happening for the Sharks is a fluke. Maybe we're performing a little bit above what we should be from an offensive perspective. There's underlying, I think we're currently like 21st in scoring or something like that across the league, and maybe the metrics suggest that we should be like perhaps a few places lower than that. And so there's, individual stuff that you can point to, or maybe the Sharks are performing a little bit above their pay grade in one area or the other, but you really can't say that like every result that we've seen like across the board has been a fluke. I really don't think it is. And so the question is, if the Sharks are able to be like sort of competing vaguely for a playoff spot at this point in the season, who's to say that we can't be in that same spot halfway through the season, 3/4 of the way through the season? And so that's really the big money question for the Sharks right now is how long can we keep this up? And like I said, we've gotten this far into the season. It's Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving on Thursday, and the Sharks are still in the playoff race. So lots to be happy about. I don't think that we've seen anything over the past few weeks certainly that's really stood out to me as like a massive red flag that the Sharks are about to start crumbling down. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think that not only are we in the playoff race, we are one game out of the wild card spot. Right now, the Utah Mammoth are 12-8-3 with 27 points, and we are 11-9-3 with 25 points. There are lots of people close to us. Edmonton is tied with us, but with one more game. Winnipeg is 1 point behind with 2 less games, so they're kind of a threat. Chicago in a similar spot, 1 game behind, 1 point behind. But we're right in that hunt. We're right in that battle. I would also note that Utah has been slowing down a little bit. So one of the guys that's already in there is a team that might be falling out of there. We'll see how that goes for them. I am incredibly happy. I have been a little bit of an optimist, I would say, in terms of the Sharks community. I thought that we would be in this spot next year. And a lot of people thought it would be like 2 years. Some people agreed. Some people thought that we would be in this spot. But I don't know that anybody expected us to be in playoff contention this year. What an amazing step up. And also that it's off of the back of 2 guys who we knew would be good. But I was like, oh, Macklin, maybe he'll be like a point per game, maybe 1.1 point per game player this season. Take a step forward, 5% up. But he went from a great player in the league to one of the best players in the league. Yaroslav Askarov, on the other part of the 2-man show that we're watching right now, I thought he would come in and be a solid, pretty flashy, maybe a little streaky kind of a goalie that is above average or at that NHL average, but for a young goalie who's just getting there, great. I didn't think he'd be one of the best, if not the best goalie currently in the league, especially with Hellebuck out. There's not really anybody else that you want more than Yaroslav Askarov in your net right now. What an amazing time it is to be a Shark fan. And then we've got Will Smith, plugging away, about a point per game in there. We got Colin Graff, my fucking boy, my guy Colin Graff. He's heating up a little bit, been getting more points. Got that empty netter against Boston.
And that might have been one of the most stylish empty netters that I've seen in a long time, by the way. I'll point that out. That was a fantastic...
It was cool.
I don't know that I've ever seen such a sweet angle on an empty net goal. That could have been a highlight goal, and there wasn't even a goalie in the net. I don't know if I've quite seen an empty net goal like that. But no, I agree. I feel like even though it is obviously these games mostly have been won by these two guys, Askarov and Celebrini, we are seeing a pretty all around game maybe not all around, it's a bit of a big phrase, but we're seeing certainly a cast of players who are able to actually provide support outside of those two guys, even if it's not always showing up in a major super offensive way. I would still like to see more of that. I would like to see more out of our second line. We need Eklund to find his scoring touch. We definitely need Wenberg to find his scoring touch. The first line has been great this year. It has been way beyond expectations, but we do need a little bit more coming from some of our other guys. But I am in total agreement. It's been just a joy to watch. And like you said, even the most optimistic people did not think that the Sharks would be in this state. I mean, I really thought that we would be a 70-point team at the end of this year coming in. You can look back on the first episode to see how I felt about this team coming into the year. I was optimistic, but for me, optimistic meant maybe we'll gain 12 to 13 points from what we had last year, which would still put us solidly in last place in the entire league. And right now, we're not last place in the entire league. In fact, there's a lot of teams that really would love to swap with us right now. And I'm not interested. I'm not going to take that swap unless if it's the Avalanche, then I'll make that swap. But outside of that, I'm happy. I'm taking the devil that I know rather than the devil that I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the Sharks also are really showing the league that we are not a team to be trifled with, and I think that you feel that a little bit if you go into the general hockey community. I think people are starting to be oh, the Sharks are not an easy win anymore. There are games where people are oh no, we're going to face the Sharks. The Calgary Flames, for example, who unfortunately beat us up. But when we were going in, the Flames were oh no, another loss to the Sharks is going to happen. And I felt that way. I know you were worried, but I was dude, we're up. Whereas last season, there were approximately 0.00 games where I was we're the favorite. We're going into this heavy favorites to win this game. So that's been really awesome. It's been making me feel like a big dog to be following the big dogs. And the big dog is Macklin Celebrini and friends, Yaroslav Askarov. So I've been really enjoying it. I'm just loving my life right now. Shit. Thank you, Macklin Celebrini. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone that I owe thanks to, it's Big Mac. And I guess that's as good of a segue as any into our next Thanksgiving-themed segment for today's special Shark Tuah episode, which is almost certainly airing well after Thanksgiving. But today we would like to give thanks because we've had such a great Shark season. There is so much to be happy for, so many things that we have to be thankful for that I did not think we would have to be thankful for. And so we're just going to rattle off some of the finer points of what's been making this a special season so far through 23 games for the Sharks. And my friend Tommy here has insisted that he start the Thanksgiving segment because he has something he has to say.
I want to say thank you, Macklin Celebrini, my boy. You've walked in, 19-year-old young man, made my life better from afar. You're in there, you're scoring goals, you're making good passes, you're playing defense well, you got good hair. I mean, what more can you want? What more can you want from a young man who you don't even know to make an impact on your life? What a guy. What a man.
That's true, and I feel like Macklin Celebrini's hair not getting the proper appreciation. That's the kind of coverage that you're only going to find through Shark Tuah, is people talking about, God, Celebrini, great hair, great head of hair.
It's good hair. I bet you he's not going to be one of the bald fucks in hockey. I
hope not.
There's a ton of bald fucks in hockey, and I say that jokingly. I love my bald homies, but there's a lot of them in hockey, and it's not going to be Macklin. He's going to have hair the whole time. I'm feeling it. All right, your turn. What more can I say? Macklin, he's great. I would shake his hand. I'd give him a $5 bill, and he'd say, I don't need this. I make way more money than you. And I'd say, take it anyway, please. Please.
For my thanks that I want to give, I'm actually going to go with a little bit of a curveball here, because I feel like I've been pretty critical throughout much of this series of Ryan Warsofsky, of the way that he handles the defensive core, of many things about the way that he controls how the Sharks play hockey, but I don't have that much to complain about. And that's what I'm thankful for, is that Ryan Warsofsky has been doing, overall, I'd say, a pretty solid job. This is being recorded before the Colorado Avalanche game, so we don't know the exact details yet. But I was looking at the lines in practice today, and they all looked actually reasonable. And we have the proper top 6 defensemen playing, and it just makes me happy, because there were so many games earlier in the season where I was like, I realized that the Sharks are probably just not that great in the first place. Like, there's only so much that a guy like Warsofsky can do. But it was frustrating seeing a team ice that didn't feel like the best version of the Sharks. And I feel like, as the year has gone on, game by game, we're slowly inching toward, like, the best version of the team. And that makes me happy. Because when I tune in for a Sharks game, I at least want to know that I'm seeing, like, the best roster that we can ice, given the players that we have. And so far, recently, it's been going pretty well. Last week, we talked a bit about Klingberg and about how it seemed like nothing would ever happen to him, no matter what. Even if he has a terrible game, he's still on the ice the next game, like playing in that first pairing role. This week, he actually got scratched, and it was Tommy and I went to the Utah game, and that was the game that John Klingberg was scratched, and that made me happy. I don't mean to, shout-outs to my boy John Klingberg. Seems like a nice guy. But it did make me happy to see that finally we're putting rookies in a bit more of a position to succeed. And, you're still seeing these developmental days for Sam Dickinson. And it's not like John Klingberg is like a healthy scratch in every game or anything like that. But it's kind of like what we said. Like, even if you want to ultimately keep Klingberg in this major role and bring him back, like, at a pretty high rate, all that I ask is that you at least give things a try and see how it works. And in that game against Boston, we had lines that I was on board with. We had Eklund on the first line with Celebrity and Smith, which I've been dying to see all year. We had a defensive situation that was actually, like, pretty solid and that worked fairly well. And for me, that's what I'm thankful for, is just a properly managed, like a well-oiled machine that the Sharks have been over the past week. And I'm thankful for that.
Before we move on to my next thank you, so you said we have the 6 players that you want in defense. I have not seen the lines. I'm going to guess the players. You tell me if I'm right, okay?
Okay.
I'm not going to guess the lines because I'm not that specific. So is it Orlov, Ferraro, Mukamadulin, Dickinson, Desharnais, Liljegren?
That is exactly correct.
That's the exact lines?
That is
there
exactly
we go.
correct. And then we have Letty Klingberg and Iorio, who just returned from the Barracuda, sort of in that nebulous, probably like healthy scratch defenseman situation. Although, this is like stupid to speculate on because it's coming out after the game, but apparently Toffoli has like an illness or something, so he is like probably unlikely to play tomorrow, and it seems like the Sharks might be going back to that 11-7 setup where we have 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, and that 7th defenseman in that situation I would say is almost certainly going to end up being John Klingberg. But still, I'd much rather have John Klingberg be viewed in that like sort of borderline, like not necessarily going to be in the lineup every single night, like 7th defenseman position, rather than in that first pairing, like power play 1 role that he's been used so far. So honestly, no problem with that. And maybe perhaps that's the role where John Klingberg can start to, like, maybe with a little bit less pressure, he can find his game a little bit more. So that's what I'm thankful for. It's just good stuff all around.
Yeah, I'm going to go for another one. You went for a little bit of an off-color one, kind of referential to decisions you had in the past. I'm going to go for another obvious one. Thank you, Yaroslav Askarov. My guy. My boy. Young man. Good hair. We saw a video of him getting his hair cut. Good hair. Barber who did that. Good job. You did a good job. Good at hockey. Tall man. He stops the puck go in the net. Sometimes the puck is near the net. He goes out. He passes it to our man. What more could you want from a goalie? He's excellent. He's got great movement. He's got reasonable positioning. And sometimes that he makes a mistake on his positioning, but he is so athletic and good, and his reactions are so good, and he can read the play so well. Doesn't even matter. He'll just move. He'll just get there. He doesn't care.
Yeah, and for as many times as he'll have maybe a bad initial read, he also has a lot of really fantastic reads, like making plays that like most goalies are not going to make. And like you mentioned, partially that's just due to his athleticism, but partially I think it's because he does he calculates the game at a very fast and high level, which is of course super important for an NHL goalie. But even more important if you're being relied on in this major role as such a young goaltender. I mean, we saw a guy like Dustin Wolf last year go absolutely crazy in Calgary, but these are like unusual things to see from a young goalie. Like you hope for this kind of performance, but you're sort of happy if he just looks okay. And so far, Askarov has looked a lot better than okay. Even considering the initial starts of the season, which I will like repeatedly say until I'm slight of breath, that Askarov was not really like the main factor in the Sharks being bad those first 6 games. In fact, I think the Sharks kind of screwed him over a little bit for a lot of that. But even if we consider that, and of course you should because it's part of the season, Askarov has been great this year. He has done so well over this past month that his not just his isolated stats for in November, but his total stats for this season are fantastic. He's at this point he's like a top 10 goalie in the NHL. And of course, if you do want to isolate it to be kind to him, he's looking better than almost any other goalie in the month of November. So just a fantastic guy. And I want to say I feel like Askarov is the perfect vibe guy for this team because this is such a vibes team, and that's been sort of a hot word for the Sharks lately. Like last year, Jumbo was like the director of vibes or whatever Mike Greer called them. So vibes are very important, and Askarov he is that guy. Even after a bad loss, Askarov is laughing, he's telling jokes, he's having a good time. He loves the San Jose fans. Every time he gets on the mic after a game where he's one of the stars of the game and they talk to him, the first thing he says is, "Man, San Jose, I hear you guys, I love you guys, thanks for coming to the game." And it seems so sincere. I've heard athletes say that kind of thing before, and I'm like, all right, bucko. But with Askarov, it's that man loves the fans. And I love him too. So I'm thankful for Askarov too. I know this is sort of your segment, but I'm also quite thankful for Yaroslav Askarov. He is my boy. He is my boy.
I'm thankful for him. There can't be two people that are thankful for a man.
I retract.
You gotta have no gratitude. You fool.
I'm now angry at Askarov.
I would give him a hug. I would give him a $5 bill, and he'd say, "Brother, I make more money than you. Please stop trying to give us money."
He doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it. But I would still hand it to him. I'd say, "Get yourself a beverage. Purchase it. Drink it. Enjoy it."
And for my next the thing that I've been thankful for is, honestly, and this is not something I expected to say even as recently as last week, but it's the defensive core. They've been a little bit better recently, and maybe I should isolate this a little bit more than just saying the defense, because that might sound like I'm complimenting Nick Leddy or complimenting John Klingberg or something. But really, if I had to name one person who I'm thankful for, and this is amazing, because again, you can go back to the first video of this series and see how I felt about him at the time, but I'm thankful for Mario Ferraro, who has been actually really, really good, especially over the last month or so, but really for most of this season, he has been one of our most consistent and one of our steadiest defensemen, which is something that I could have never, ever in a million years guessed coming into the season. And Tommy is a little bit more of a Mario Ferraro guy. I've always thought that he seems like a really swell dude. He's such an iconic Shark for this era of Sharks, which obviously has not been the greatest era of Sharks, so maybe not the best time to be an iconic Shark, but he has been and he seems like a really nice guy, seems to really love the fans, seems to really appreciate his role here in San Jose, and those are things that I've always appreciated about Mario Ferraro. But to be honest, I've been quite lukewarm on his actual gameplay for a long time, and honestly, this season, Ferraro is looking if he had been like this the whole time, I would have never had any of these words to say about Mario Ferraro. He's been looking really, really good, and it puts us in a great position where now suddenly, we have the option to flip Mario Ferraro, who of course his contract is up at the end of the year, which is why you'd even consider it, so you can maybe get some value out of him that way. If the Sharks end up we do keep this up and we end up being a potential prospective playoff team headed into the trade deadline, then maybe you choose not to, and you can keep him on as that first or second pairing guy that's actually suddenly become productive. And that's a beautiful thing for a team like the Sharks to have that kind of option in a way that we really, at least I didn't expect to have coming into the season. I kind of thought that if Ferraro looked even okay, we would be blessed to have the opportunity to ship him at the deadline. But now it's he's not just looking okay, he's actually looking good, like genuinely good. And so, you know, and a fantastic anchor for a blue line that really needs one at the moment. I don't know. That's what I got to say about Mario Ferraro. He's been having a really just rock steady season so far for San Jose, and that's not even like just by Mario Ferraro standards, which is how I previously would have been discussing him. That's by like NHL defenseman standards, and he doesn't have easy matchups. He's usually on the second pairing. In fact, pretty much always in the second pairing, playing against players that coming into this year everyone would have thought would have smoked Mario Ferraro in like every single matchup, and he's actually, when he's on the ice, the team is looking better than when he's not. So that's a very impressive thing, and I just want to say I'm thankful for Big Mario.
Me, as somebody who does not have gratitude for Mario Ferraro, as somebody else in this room already has gratitude for him, of no gratitude at all, I have said for a long time that I feel like Mario Ferraro was being done dirty a little bit by his position on the Sharks. He was the most solid, reasonable defenseman on a team with very little solid, reasonable defensemen. So he was always in that first pairing, always having to go against like Connor McDavid when the Oilers were here, going against Alex Ovechkin when we played the Capitals, like guys that are some of the best to ever do it, not just the best in the league, but the best to have ever been in the league. And I don't think that's where his skill set lies, but I think he is a very solid second pairing defenseman on any team in the NHL. I think he genuinely is at that level. I think he is just a step below the top guys right now. But I think he's really solid, and I think that he looked worse because he was expected to do so much. When I think you put him right in his role, which is like, you know, somebody that you can trust versus most players in the league, but maybe those absolute top guys are going to beat him, I think he looks excellent here.
I mean, we've seen games this year where Mario Ferraro has been on a pairing with, like, maybe a really bad night for Mook Madulin, or maybe even nights where he's, like, on a pairing with John Klingberg, as I think we saw for a little while. Or, like, it could be a night where he's playing with Lil Jagrin, and Lil Jagrin is, like, having one of his off nights. And for me, the really eye-opening thing is that in these games where he's playing with like a defenseman who is not helping him at all. In fact, the first one that comes to my mind is indeed one of those games where he was playing with Mook Madulin, and Mook Madulin was not having a very good night, even though, of course, I love him as a defenseman. That is a really eye-opening thing for me when Mario Ferraro is able to take a player like that and actually have a good night in spite of being like stapled to a guy who is having a really horrible night. Like, that's impressive, because even if you like were a pro Mario Ferraro guy, like my friend Tommy here, I don't think anyone going into this year would have viewed him as the kind of guy who can, like, carry a defensive pairing. Like, if he's playing with a guy who's good, then yeah, Ferraro could look pretty good. But if he's playing with a guy who's bad, traditional metrics would say that coming into the season that you would not expect a whole lot from Mario Ferraro. But he has really, and perhaps this is, you know, partially a result because of he's on a contract year, and like after the season he could potentially be going to free agency and having, you know, wanting to find a big deal for himself. But he has been really stepping up his game in a way that has impressed me in a very sincere way. So that's, you know, I'm grateful for that. That's my next one.
Alrighty, I'm gonna go for many people. I was going to just go for my boy Colin Graff. I don't know if I'm allowed to have gratitude for him yet, depending on what you say for your next one. But I am going to say I am thankful for Barclay Goodrow.
Oh my.
What? Barclay Goodrow last season, we did not have a podcast then. I was a hater. I was a full-on hater. I was sipping the haterade. I was listening to Professor Hockey, who was also sipping the haterade.
He was dispensing the haterade.
I love Professor Hockey. Many of the times you hear me, you can just think that I am a copy of Professor Hockey, but much less handsome and cool. Anyway, he was dispensing haterade. I was sipping on it, and I was loving sipping on it. Anytime something bad was happening for the Sharks, I was like, Barclay Goodrow, how dare you? When Mario Ferraro, my fucking boy, would make an error, I'd be like, how dare Barclay Goodrow do this? But honestly, this season, he has been a very solid shutdown fourth liner. I think that his penalty kill is excellent. His 5-on-5 is reasonable. He was statistically one of, if not the worst forwards in the league last year, and he has come to be somebody that I don't want to see gone from the team. He's somebody that, especially on the penalty kill, he makes good decisions constantly. Our penalty kill has been pretty solid, and a big part of that is because of him. I think that our fourth line, while it hasn't been like a great scoring fourth line, it's not a fourth line that you look at and you're like, oh man, like how they're on the ice, like this is bad. Like him, Ryan Reeves, Gaudette, Delandria, they've been having a pretty solid season. I'd love to see them score more. That's one thing about Barclay Goodrow is he's not scoring, but especially defensively, he's doing excellent. When he's on the ice, I'm not generally too worried about it. I feel really good, and this is something that last year I would have physically assaulted current me. I would have stabbed me in the chest with a spoon.
Wow.
For saying this about Barclay Goodrow. But now, yeah, he's I wouldn't slip him a $5 bill like Askarov Macklin, but I'd slip him $3.50.
I wouldn't, I'm not giving him any money personally. He makes enough money as it is, arguably far more money than he should be making given his role. But I would give him a nice, crisp high five. And I hope that the sound would really, like, ring throughout wherever we were. Like a nice echo on it. For me, that's what I'd give Barclay Goodrow. He's been, that whole fourth line has been solid. And like you said, they're not really like a scoring line, but they aren't supposed to be a scoring line. I don't think that even like the most like optimistic beginning of the season, Ryan Warsofsky, like a twinkle in his eye, Ryan Warsofsky was like, oh yeah, I'm sure that this fourth line is really going to be giving us like most of our offense moving forward. That was clearly not the goal. The idea for them is to like sort of, play like those 10 minutes a game or so that they play and not completely stink up the ice, try to get the puck out of their own zone and not get like absolutely like hammered into their own zone over and over, night in, night out. And while a very low bar, obviously, they have been doing a great job of that. I mean, I don't even think that Goodrow is like the weak link of the line that he's been on. And we actually have seen recently, you mentioned Delandria. We've been seeing that pairing actually run out centered by Zach Ostapchuk, who I actually think has been pretty all right. I wasn't like the biggest fan of what we saw from him last year, following us acquiring him during the trade deadline. And I think that this year I've seen a lot more where I can be like, okay, I sort of see where a guy like this can help the team. And so I'll extend that grace to the general fourth line, which I think has been pretty solid.
I already did that, dude. I do think that stop stealing my grace.
If we have to like point out a weak link on that line, amazingly, it's probably Ryan Reeves. It's not Barclay Goodrow, who has been just decent. I would like to see more offense from him. I just don't think he can do that at this point in his career. And so what he's contributing defensively and absolutely what he's contributing on the PK has been, cause for celebration. So for Barclay Goodrow, I say take the wing, the wing of the turkey. You're not getting the breast. You're not getting the leg. But I can tell you, for you, Barclay, for you, my friend, I offer you the wing.
That's a good hunk of meat. That's a reasonable. I like that meat. I'm a breast guy myself, but I mean that's reserved for Macklin and Yaroslav Askarov. Talking about Ryan Reeves, even if he has been the weak link-ish of that line, I think that we have definitely seen that his off-ice contributions to the locker room are incredibly significant. I think he's somebody that you can just feel that he is enjoying himself. Like, it just kind of radiates off of him in a way that it didn't necessarily when he was with the Maple Leafs and the Marlies. And I think that it's obvious that pretty much everyone in the locker room really likes him. Like, you hear a lot about him organizing outings. He's the one who set up the new star of the game, dog of the game tradition that they have, where they wear the shark tooth necklace for their interviews. I think that he has outperformed what we expected on the ice as well. I would have never expected he'd have 2 goals. No, like never.
At the end of the year, I'd be like maybe 1 goal.
Yeah,
maybe 1 goal.
2 goals already. He's been hitting. He's been out there delivering hits. Something that again he didn't do as much in Toronto. I feel like he is a rejuvenated Ryan Reeves. So even if he is one of the weaker links down there, I don't think he has been necessarily bad.
No, and I think
he's been solid.
I feel like generally speaking, I try not to put too much like emphasis on the idea, and it's sports in general, not just hockey, on the idea of like a glue guy. Like, you sort of want your whole roster to be capable of producing, like, regardless of whether they're a nice guy or not. But Ryan Reeves, to his credit, really does seem like a glue guy. Like, everyone fucking loves the guy. Like, he definitely seems like everyone is his boy, and he is everyone's boy.
And that matters, man.
It does. It really
matters.
does. And if this team had more physical presences on it outside of Ryan Reeves, then you could say, I don't know, maybe he's like fills like a redundant role on the roster. But we really don't. And that's something that, I'm sure that we've got like a guy like Cam Lund. We've got plenty of prospects who like seem to have prospect in that physical capacity. But right now we sort of don't. It's a lot of very high skill young players who don't really have a whole lot to offer when it comes to like that physical hitting, fighting kind of presence. And of course, the NHL might be like moving away from that in a general way as the years go on. But it is of course still a very major part of the game. I mean, we've seen so many plays this year where it's basically just like a player getting assassinated and then the other guy doesn't get in trouble for it. So your team has to be able to keep up in that way. Otherwise, you're going to get like railroaded constantly in every single game. And Ryan Reeves has been pretty good about that. I don't know that like every hit he lands this year has like necessarily translated to like direct offense that helps the team. But there have been moments where he actually has done that. And that's about as much as you can ask for a guy like Ryan Reeves, knowing that like even years ago he wasn't like some like great high scoring player that was like, necessarily going to be outskilling any other player on the ice in most situations. And so now that he's like 37 years old,
38 I think.
38, my goodness.
What a dinosaur, am I right?
Guy's like going to wither away into dust by the end of the season. But in the meantime, he's actually been, I don't know, he's been doing his job. And that's about as much as I could ask for. I was not coming into the season with a lot of expectations for Ryan Reeves, and so I also am thankful for him. And I'm also thankful for the fact that he seems to make the boys happy. Make my boy Will Smith, my boy Macklin Celebrini. They like him, and so I like him.
Absolutely. What's your next one? Who are you thankful for now?
Honestly, this might be my last one. I'm thankful for the big dog, Mike Greer. I think this is a good one because like
big money.
There's been so much going on the ice this year that I feel like last year Mike Greer was on at the front of my brain at all times.
Absolutely,
there wasn't much going on the ice, but we knew what Mike Greer's master plan was, and that was like what kept me going. When I woke up in the morning, I was envisioning Mike Greer, and it kept me going through the day.
He's a handsome man.
But this season, we're playing some solid hockey. It's easy to put the focus on a guy like Macklin Celebrini. It's easy to put the focus on any number of people on this team, and it's sort of almost easy to forget the GM who has got us here. And so I got to give big shout outs to my boy Big Money Mike, who has, he's been a little quiet this season in terms of like making moves since the regular season started. And I assume that there is stuff going on behind the scenes. In fact, I don't just assume that. I kind of know that there has to be something going on, like especially with regards to the defenseman situation. But it's been like sort of a mildly subdued start to the season in terms of like there just haven't been a lot of trades going on across the league in general. I don't know if there has been a single like NHL level trade in the past month. But despite that, you got to give shout-outs to Mike Greer for, like, he has a timeline, and he's been inching us along that timeline, and now we're kind of getting into, like, the fruits of his labors, and it's almost easy to forget, like, he's the puppet master who's been pulling the strings this whole time to make this happen. And I know it's a little ahead of schedule, and it's not completely like all Mike Greer's doing, the team has been playing well, but it's not Mike Greer's doing either, because look at where we were when Mike Greer came in. Like, this team was directionless, we had terrible contracts, the team was going absolutely nowhere, certainly wasn't making the playoffs, but also wasn't bad enough to even get, like, high picks in a draft necessarily. It was just like, and to me, that's the worst that a team can be, is if you're not even bad, but you're not a playoff contender, and there's no future, and the contracts are bad, that's a truly terrible situation. Like, there's nothing to be happy about. There's nothing to root for. Basically, the only thing I had to be happy about was, like, sometimes I'd see Timo Meier do something cool. And now, Mike Greer has put us in a spot where not only is the team, like, we can see, like, a couple of years from now, like, this team could be an absolute, like, a house that is going to be just destroying teams left and right, potentially. But we can see that right now, the team has finally started to improve. And especially given how the season started and how like, not optimistic, how pessimistic I was about this club, I got to give shout-outs to my boy Mike Greer. My faith never faltered in the long-term plan, but my faith faltered for this year, and perhaps it shouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, Big Money Mike, pick up the damn phone. What a man. For him, I think we should even save a piece of the breast.
For Mike Greer, easily. Mike. And I believe he should be sitting at the head of the table.
Absolutely,
as well.
Head of the table. Right hand, Celebrini, left hand, Askarov. For my last one, I do have one more. Special mentions, honorable mentions. I'm gonna just rattle off some names of people on the team that I like, which is gonna be like most of the team. William Eklund, Will Smith,
Classic.
fucking Philip Kershev doing good work, better than I thought he would have been. We had Alex Wenberg. We had even my man Tyler Toffoli. We haven't mentioned him. He's been playing through some stuff. Hasn't had the greatest time, but a great mentor. Another guy who usually he's a production guy as well. Usually he's a scorer, but he's also a glue guy. Great for the locker room. Great for the young guys. Ty Dellandrea, like we mentioned, playing really well. I'm positive about the Sharks as a whole. If you're a Sharks player right now, I'm loving you. A couple people, I'm loving you less, but it's okay because I'm not going to say your names because this is positive. But what I am truly thankful for, we've had the opportunity to go to a fair few Sharks games. I'm thankful for the Blue Jackets, the Blue Shirts, the people who are working the SAP Center.
Oh, I think you meant like the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Not the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I'm not thankful.
Yeah, I'm not thankful for those guys. But the guys at the doors who are helping you get in, the guys helping you find your seats. They've always been incredibly kind, incredibly courteous. The custodial staff. The SAP Center is always super clean. Bathrooms are not much nicer than you'd expect. There isn't garbage all over the place, and that takes a lot of work. You see how it is after a game. There's garbage all over the place. These people, they work to make the game that we love much more palatable. I don't think they get a lot of appreciation. I don't know that any of them are going to hear me. But I am incredibly appreciative of all the people who just make the SAP Center such a great place to go and watch hockey and such a great environment. We've seen a little bit of rowdiness in the stands, and they're always there trying to, help calm things down, trying to help everybody just have a good time. So I am thankful to them, the trainers who help our boys, all the people behind the scenes that maybe you don't think of as the Sharks, but are definitely a part of the Sharks and a part of what makes our club one of my favorite things in my life. Like something that I just truly love, truly makes me smile, and they're a big part of that, man.
Yeah, so much of the behind-the-scenes stuff is, like, what makes the game go, especially, like, from a fan perspective, because, when it comes to the team, they've got all sorts of employees, they've got the trainers, they've got all these guys, but the building has to operate in order for the hockey to be held inside of the building, and these guys do a fantastic job. They've always been great, always had a great experience every time I've ever been to the SAP Center, whether it's for hockey or whether it was for back in the day going to see wrestling shows there. Always had a tremendous experience at the SAP Center, and the employees are like such a huge part of that. I remember when I went to like WWE Raw back in the day. There, I was standing outside in line, and one of the employees was really humoring me, asking him like, "What does SAP mean?" and stuff like that. Like they're just nice people. They're there having a good time, making the dream happen. And that's I didn't even think about that when we were going into this episode. Those are the people that really do deserve thanks around this time of the year. They're not making millions of dollars like these hockey players. They're making shit ass wages, if I had to guess. Yeah. And they do a great job. Every single time they're going above and beyond and making the experience special. And of course, at the end of the day, I gotta say I'm thankful for the Shark Tuah fan base.
Absolutely.
Everyone who's been watching and supporting us in the early parts of our endeavors here, it has meant a whole lot. I read all the comments, I see all the support, I see the likes, I see the views, and everyone, whether you're liking, commenting, or whether you're just viewing this episode for the very first time, I just want to say thanks for supporting our little stupidly named Sharks podcast. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I've been doing YouTube stuff since I was like a child, and it's nice to see something that you're posting actually get some support from the people, and you guys have been supportive, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's one man especially who has commented on multiple of our videos, and a bunch of people who have commented once or twice. But every single time, I don't know if it's true for you, but every single time I see somebody say something even vaguely positive, I'm cheesing it. I'm smiling. It brings a smile to my face every time when I see the number go up, bigger number, better person. Man, for a small thing that we were just like, this is going to be fun for us to do, a fun way for two friends to spend time together. It's been so awesome to share it with you guys. We're small creators, and we love any one of you. The amount of impact that you have if you share your positivity with us. I think I can't overstate it. Like truly, the days when we get like 2 people that are like, hey, nice show, like I enjoyed it, you made me smile or whatever. That shit will fuel me for a whole day, maybe even 2 days. I'll be fueled off that. So thank you very much. I'm gonna steal some of your gratitude for that one. We love you guys. We're small, but you guys are awesome.
And I will say we don't have enough turkey for all of you guys, but you're all entitled to 1 small cube of stuffing each. So,
I'll give you potatoes and gravy as well.
Okay.
I'm willing to commit to that.
You're gonna have to cover that part though. I'm only willing to commit to the stuffing. So.
You're only willing to commit to the dude, brother.
So go to Tommy if you want the potatoes. If you want the gravy.
Can we at least go half on the pie? Can we go on the half on the pie?
Who said anything about pie? We don't get that many views. These people don't deserve pie. Let's be honest.
What? We don't get that many views. That's why they deserve even more per man.
No. If you guys, if you can get us to another 200 views on this video, then maybe I'll think about the pie. I think he's being a little bit generous. I'm no longer grateful. I'm no longer thankful. I need more from you guys.
All right. Thank you for watching this episode of Shark Tuah. We're going to have a serious conversation about this man's gratitude and his ability to show it. Thank you, Shark Boys and Lava Girls. We appreciate you. Some more than others, apparently. Peace out. We love you guys.